Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kemi, and I'm here to talk about Beyond the Gates Season 2, Episode 101. Now, before we begin, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. Now, I gotta let y'all know. This is like the fourth time that I've tried to make this video because the first time I tried it, my notes was all over the place and I was just lost in my notes when I was trying to explain what was going on. Second time I tried it, I don't even know what happened, but something else happened. The third, it's stuff been happening when I've been trying to make this video. But I got my notes together and I'm ready to give y'all episode 101. So this episode was a Hamilton Dupree centric episode. So we're going to be getting a lot. This episode had a lot of flashbacks, basically showing the dissolvement of Dani and Bill's marriage and how it got to where it got to, for the most part, or at least up until whatever. You know what I'm saying? So we start the episode off with Dani. She's at home and she is looking at photos of her and Bill, and it's a picture of, it's supposed to be of them at Winterfest, but if I'm not mistaken, I could have sworn it was what she had on for Naomi's cotillion, but it is what it is. So she's looking at that photo. Andre comes in, she tells him what she was doing, and then they start to discuss the ending of her marriage. So we see Bill, he's in his office and he's on the phone with Hayley, and they're talking about how he can't make it to dinner because he's swamped and he can't believe that Mike is coming after him through his daughters. So they get off the phone. Caroline comes in and she asks if he needs anything, and he tells her, everything's good. Then he asked her, he asked her about Mike and if he ever tried her, and she tells him, nah, he never tried me because he knew what it was, and he wants to know how come he never saw anything. And she tells him, because you saw what you wanted to see. And he was very Mike was very, like, he hid a lot of things, but also you had your own thing going on or whatever. So we see Chelsea and Naomi. They're at the club and they're having dinner. They talk about their significant others, Jacob and Madison, and how they picked people who love them as opposed to what they saw growing up. They Chelsea is more, um, she's more like naive about it, about their relationship growing up, as opposed to what Naomi saw, because Naomi feels like their dad was, you know, he of course, because she knew their dad was messing around on their mom or whatever, but she also feels like their mom knew, but she's just like, even though they never showed it to us that things was going on, Bill would always say something, would always like say something slick when he didn't think they would be hearing, or what, if that they heard him or whatever, but she heard. So they start to talk about how their parents are looking at each other, and Naomi doesn't care. Naomi doesn't care how Hayley feels about it after what she did to their family. So we see Hayley, she's at Uptown and she's talking to Randy about the ring op and asking and saying, Joey's looking for counsel. He explains what it was. She lets him know the poison is working. Uh, sorry. Sorry. Okay. So she lets him know that the poison is working or whatever. So we see Dani, she's showing Andre the picture that she was looking at, and how it was after winter, like at Winterfest they had already like split, but nobody knew about it. She then tells him about the conversation that she had with Bill the other day, when she was like, she was talking to him about the whole Mike situation and how he turned a blind eye to everything or whatever. And then she tells him she doesn't know how she became the woman that she is. She then tells him how she went to Bill begging him to take her back the night before his wedding, And we see a flashback of that or whatever. Andre gives her a pep talk and says, that's what y'all were used to doing. Like he would step out, you would go to him, and y'all would get back together or whatever. Um, she talks about, let's see, she talks about how she met Hayley for the first time, and that was when she came over with the brownies, which they show a quick little flashback of it, but we had seen that flashback last year when we found out who Hayley really was or whatever. So we see Bill, he's still talking to Caroline, and he's telling her how he fell in love with Hayley. And when he first met her, she was different than the others. Caroline wants to know if it was love at first sight. He was just like, no, but she was like a breath of fresh air. So we see Hayley, she's telling Brandy about how she had bought him a smart ring, and he thinks that Bill thinks that she bought it because she's, wants him to be healthy or whatever, but she really bought it just to track him and all of that stuff. So she's seeing that his numbers are treading down and soon they'll get their payoff. So we see a flashback of how the con started, and it's Bill, not Bill, but Hayley is talking to Randy, and she's trying to, she came to town because she was trying to because Joey was her mark, but he turned her off of Joey and said, this is who you're going to who this is going to be your new mark. So he gives her the gist about Bill, and he's talking about who Bill is and all this other stuff. And Hayley was just like, yeah, this man, the way that you're talking about him, he sounds like he's taken. And he was just like, yeah, he's taken, but his wife is always out of town, and he'd be stepping out on her and da 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 all this other stuff and X, Y, and Z. So she's just like, okay, cool. So then let's see. So we see Naomi and Hayley's first meeting, and they are um Hayley, this picture here isn't their first meeting. This is like another meeting that they had, but we see their first meeting where she's at the atrium, and not Naomi, but Hayley walks up to Naomi and was just like, oh, I saw you in spin class, and she's talking to her or whatever. Then she starts telling Naomi introduces herself as Naomi Hawthorne. So at the moment that they met, she was already married to Jacob. So we got a little bit of a nugget there. So she's telling her how, she's moved to the DMV, she's new, and she wants to get a job, and she came here to get a job in government or something like that, but she hasn't found it yet. Right now she's working on how to get out of her lease because she was sold something that she wasn't right. Basically, what she saw online wasn't what she received in person. Naomi offers to help her because she's a social justice warrior, but Hayley was just like, no, you don't have to do that, but I would love to. I would love it if you help me find a place because I'm new. I don't have no friends. Naomi agrees, and they're all, that's how they become friends. So we go back to Chelsea and not Madison, Chelsea and Naomi, and they wonder if their parents would still be together if she hadn't met Hayley, and how their relationship has changed over the last year. And they look like they're in a better place. Um, Naomi tells her, that's because of all the things that have happened within the last year. So they talk about Anita's, the big seed, and they talk about Chelsea's kidnapping and all this other stuff. And then Chelsea thinks that it would have brought them closer together. And Naomi says, they never know. Chelsea wants to know if Bill is still on her about being nice to Hayley. And Naomi is just like, she won't, since she used their friendship to get to her dad. So then we see the flashback and this is the picture. We see the flashback of Naomi telling her parents' business to Hayley because again, she is her mama's op, but she's talking about a time when she had seen some lady coming out of Bill's office, and when she goes into Bill's office, she sees she sees that he has her lipstick on her mouth, and she's like so disappointed. She doesn't tell her dad that she noticed, because Hayley's wondering, did you tell your dad or did you tell your mom? And she was just like, no. And Hayley is making remarks about Dani low key being pathetic for staying in a situation like that. And then she wonders if she knows. And Naomi is just like, she feels like her mama knows, but she's not leaving. And again, Hayley is making more remarks about Dani being dumb for staying with a man like that or whatever, and all this other stuff. And Naomi isn't correcting her or saying anything, but it is what it is. So we get back to Hayley, and she's telling Randy that Naomi gave her everything that she needed to get to Bill, and she makes fun of Dani again. So we see the flashback of Dani. Um, Dani and Hayley are at her house, and she's talking about them going to dinner. She invites Hayley with them to go to the club to the dinner. Then Hayley is talks up her orphan Annie background or whatever, and Dani falls for it. Then we see them at the club and they're at dinner. Hayley is focused on Bill, watching his every move. He is on the phone, not paying attention. Dani, Chelsea, and Naomi are talking about whatever they're talking about. Then Dani brings up Bill needing a new receptionist, and she tells him to hire Hayley. And Naomi bigs up Hayley and thinks it's a good idea, and then he agrees. He agrees or whatever. So we see Dani. She's talking to Andre, and she's telling him how did she become an easy prey, and who knew the shy girl would become her personal hell. So we see a flashback of Bill. Um, we see a flashback of Hayley's first day at the office, and she comes in and she's asking him about his outfit, about her outfit, and she didn't know if it was appropriate. He tells her she's fine. He gives her a compliment and all this other stuff. So we go back to Randy talking to Hayley, and he wants to know how long it took for her to get what she wanted, and she said it took long enough. So we get a flashback of her I don't have that picture, but we get a flashback of her in Bill's office in this black number, strapless number or whatever, and he offers her a drink. They start to drink, then they start talking about marriage, and she's basically bigging him up and making it seem like Dani is the problem. Then they start making out. We go back to Randy and Hayley, and he's shocked that they did it right there in the office, because that's when they first got together in the office or whatever. Hayley says the hardest part of the con was feeling shame since she doesn't care. Randy gives her props. Then we see a flashback and this is when it got good, girl. This is when it got real good, y'all. So we see a flashback of Hayley in Dani's room. He's packing. Hayley and Bill are in Dani's room, the room that she be in now. Child, okay, So he's packing his stuff since Chelsea and Dani are out and he's leaving or whatever. They're gonna be gone for a week, and he would rather get his stuff now than wait until they get back, and then she burns it all up or whatever. So he tells her that he's glad that he hasn't told Dani that he's leaving her because there's too many memories in the house. And she says, well, I gave you some good memories or whatever. And they want to make another memory. So they sit on a bed and they about to go at it. And then they hear Chelsea, and she walks in and she's stunned. And then she tries to get Dani not to come in, but she sees them. So we see Dani. We're out of the flashback, and we see Dani saying she doesn't know what she would have done if Chelsea wasn't there. She can't believe that Bill would bring his dirt to their house and in their bed. He's had flings before, but Hayley was different. She was supposed to be family. So we go back to the flashback, and Bill says, they were supposed to be on a plane, and they say, well, it was rescheduled. Hayley apologizes and says they were going to tell her, and Chelsea tells her to shut up and get her trifling behind out the house. Bill yells at Chelsea and tells her, don't talk to my woman like that. I was just like, yo, woman, is you cool? Like, in your wife's child. Okay. So Chelsea says, I don't know who's Chelsea was just like, you're worse because like, why would you do that? So Bill tells her to leave, but Chelsea isn't gonna leave her mom. He tells Hayley to go wait in the car. Danny says, nah, no, don't get dressed and then go. Don't get dressed just to go take it off for somebody else's husband. Go ahead and stay here. Like, nah, don't leave. Don't leave now. um she starts to go for Hayley, but Bill stops her. And she tells him, I'm coming for you next. And like, she yelling, she going in. He tells her to get a hold of herself, and she calls him out on his ish and like all the stuff that he's does. He then tells her that he and Hayley have fallen in love, and Chelsea wants to leave. And Chelsea wants to leave. She's just like, Mom, let's go, because she's crying. And then Bill tells them both that he's leaving Dani or whatever. So we end the flashback, and we see Chelsea and Naomi. And Chelsea is thinking about, she's thinking about the night they found Bill and Hayley, and how Dani, and how her soul had left her body or whatever. She had never seen Bill be so cruel or look at her that way. Naomi says she wished she had said something sooner, but keeping quiet is her way of protecting the one she loves. And I'm just like, girl, okay, whatever. Chelsea tells her the truth was always going to come out, but they found a way forward. It's better they have a decent relationship with him than idolize something that wasn't real. Naomi says her money is on Hayley running off with a private chef. And Chelsea says, shame on you wishing bad luck on a chef. So then we go back to Hayley and Randy, and Hayley is complaining about Naomi and Chelsea, and them being brats or whatever. But she did like having Naomi. Randy says, it reminded her of her relationship with Lynette. He tells her no time for regrets, and the 10 milli will make her feel better. She says she hasn't lost focus, and he tells her not to let her guard down, and she tells him she got this. So we see Andre and Dani. We go back to Andre and Dani, and he's telling her not to feel guilty, and he understands the grief. She says she's grieving the sense that she lost herself and that her parents were right to be disappointed in her. He tells her, no, it's okay. Let's come off this painful trip down memory lane. He says he knows what to do to make her feel better. He's gonna run her a bath, light her some candles, play some music for her. She wants to know if he will be joining her, and he tells her no. He says no. Inner Dani needs her attention right now. And she says she doesn't know how she got lucky to find someone who cares about her well-being, and he says that she would do the same for him. So we see Bill. We see Bill. He's back in his office, and he hears the scream for the wedding day, and him telling Dani that it's over. He hears the screams from the wedding day when Dani had pulled the pew pew out, and then we see the not see, but he hears Dani. I'm sorry, not Dani, but he hears him telling Dani, that they're over, and Dani says they'll never be over. And I think that was from the first like the first week when she had came in with the golf club and knocked everything off of his desk when he had a meeting or whatever. So we go back to Chelsea and Naomi, and they are ending their night. Madison is on her way there. Chelsea tells Naomi to stay, but Naomi's going to be with Jacob, and they talk about how they're grateful for their partners and not ending up with someone like Bill. So we go back to Bill, and he has a flashback of Dani begging him to come back to him at the day before his wedding or whatever. And Hayley comes in with food. She asks if he's okay. He's tired and he's ready to relax. So he walks by her to leave so they can go home or whatever. She gets upset, and then they go home or whatever. So we see Dani. She is now out of the and I don't have that picture. But we see Dani. She's now out of the tub. She's in her robe and she's looking at a picture of her and Bill from Naomi's Cotillion. So again, I'm not sure if it's the same picture, but I think it is. But that's what she's looking at. She closes it. She puts the phone down and she cuddles up to Andre. And he asks her how the bath was, and she says it's just what she needed. And they start making out. And that was the end of the episode. So this was a really good episode. This gave us an insight of how their relationship broke down, which was so good. And after watching this episode, it really, really pisses me off what's about to happen next. But we're going to get to that soon. But make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. Get down in the comments. Tell me what you guys thought about this episode, and I will see you guys in the next one.